the gospel of our Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
When we think of faith, people usually think of words. I mean, we have our creed, like I believe in God the Father, the Almighty. We have our prayers like Hail Mary and Our Father, the commandments. And I suppose we associate the faith with words because we associate faith with instruction, learning the catechism, praying the scriptures, preparing for sacraments. But faith really isn't a matter of words. It's a matter of experience. And we do not find God through instruction, but we find God in the patterns of our lives. Let me share a story with you. This was told by late Jesuit theologian John Paul. And it was the first class that he was teaching theology. It was actually at University Loyola in Chicago. And the student's name that he remembered was Tommy. And this was the time was in the 60s. And Tommy was a rebel with an attitude. He had hair down to his shoulders, and he was the resident atheist in the class. And the one who kept objecting and criticizing and ridiculing all that Father Paul was trying to teach. Everything about a loving God he just couldn't accept. Despite this antagonism, he made it through the semester. And when Tommy came up with his final exam and turned it in, he said in a cynical tone, Father Powell, do you think that I'll ever find God? Father Powell looked at him and said, no, I don't think you will ever find God. But God will find you. The years passed, and one day John Powell was told by a colleague that Tommy had contracted cancer and it was terminal. Immediately, Powell wanted to reach out to find Tommy. But before he could do that, Tommy showed up one day in his classroom. He was drastically changed, his body wasted, his hair gone from the chemotherapy. But his eyes were still bright and his voice firm. Tommy, Father Powell said, I've thought of you often. I hear that you're very sick. I said, yes, Father, I'm very sick. It's actually a matter of weeks. I'm so sorry, said the priest. Father, but it could be worse. He said, I could be in my 50s without any purpose or ideal and without faith. Faith, said the priest? Yes, Father, faith. And that's why I'm here now. Remember how you told me God was going to find me? I came to tell you that is very true. When you said that to me, I just brushed it off. I didn't think much more about it. But when they removed that tumor from my groin and told me that it was malignant, that it spread to all my vital organs, I began to search for God. I read the Bible. I prayed. I talked to a lot of people. But despite all my efforts, I couldn't find God. I pounded against the bronze doors of heavens, but God would not come out. And after months of trying, I gave up. I decided, what's the use? I didn't care about God or the afterlife. Then I remembered something that you said in class. You said, the saddest thing in life is to never have loved. And the second saddest thing is to have loved and not told anyone about it. He said, that made sense to me. I decided I was going to spend the rest of my time I had to talking to the people that I loved. And I began with my most difficult relationship, my father. I always admired him, but could never talk or communicate. So I pulled together my courage one evening and came into the room that he was reading the evening newspaper. Dad, I said, yeah, as he was reading the newspaper. Dad, I need to talk to you. Okay, he said, and he still had his head buried in the newspaper. Dad, this is really important. I need your attention. Paper came down a few inches. I don't have much time left, and I just want you to know that I love you. The paper fell to the floor, and his dad did two things that he said he had never seen him do before. He cried, and he hugged me. Then they talked the rest of the night. The other relationships in his life were much easier, telling his mother, his sister, and his friends. He spent a good time trying to contact all those people that he cared about and telling them how much he loved them and how much they meant to him. But then one day, Father, and this is why I'm here, I turned around and God was there. God didn't come when I asked him, but God came. When I couldn't find God, God found me. Father Powell took a deep breath. He said, Tommy, that's one of the most beautiful descriptions of faith I've ever heard. Do you think there's any way you could come to my theology class this year and tell your story? His response, yes, Father, of course. I'd be happy to. So the two of them set a date for Tommy to come in. The date came, but Tommy never made it. Faith is not primarily words. Faith is allowing God to touch us in the experience of our lives. When the disciples came to Jesus in today's gospel to ask for information, Teacher, where are you staying? Jesus doesn't answer them. He says, come and see. He says, you have to experience it. Jesus knows that words can point to faith, but words are not faith. You can't find God in the catechism. You can only find God in the experiences of your life. You can find God in any experience. You can find God in the joyful experiences, in the love of a spouse, the sex at work, in the closeness of your friends. And you can find God in pain. And you can find God working in the problems of your marriage. And you can find God worrying about your finances. Or you can find God like Timmy did in sickness and even approaching death. So this is why we must be like the disciples. We must be willing to come and see, and to look for God in the joys and the sorrows of our life. If we examine our lives and our experiences, and God seems to be absent, or if we look for God and can't find God, it doesn't mean that we made a mistake or that we looked in the wrong places. It's then, as disciples, that we must be patient and know that if we can't find God, God will find us.